Hello everyone, I just want to introduce our project called Recovery Through Activity, Implementation and Evaluation of an Online Occupational Therapy Intervention across Wales. Recovery Through Activity is a 12-week course designed to help people experiencing mental health issues to explore the different categories of activity as part of their recovery journey. This slide is actually a photograph of the 12 Windows project between Hywel Dda University Health Board and the VC Gallery, where service users who'd actually attended the course developed this artwork representing the 12 categories of activity. So recovery through activity itself is usually developed face-to-face, or delivered face-to-face rather, and was being delivered across a number of health boards across Wales. But back in March last year, the OT leads across Wales met, and with the advent of COVID, we decided to look at moving this intervention online to create a choice of approaches when delivering recovery through activity. We wanted to ensure that participants had access to suitable online activities that they could continue to enjoy post-COVID, but we also wanted to make sure that we were actually developing a robust intervention with a robust set of evaluation tools as well. We were fortunate to have an OT lead in clinical practice and education from an Bevan, who carried out an analysis of all the outcome measures, which led us to using the role checklist version 3, looking at people's roles and identity and confidence in engaging in activities. We also wanted to use that as a post-course checklist as well for people to complete. We also use the being, belonging, becoming scale, or the 3B scale. This is an outcome measure that looks at people's willingness and ability to participate in activity. And also we wanted to use a patient-reported experience measure, which was developed by leads within the group. And this was about looking at the experience of virtual groups from a service user perspective and how they applied changes in their everyday lives after attending the group as well. I'm just going to hand over to Christine Fairfax now for the next slide.
So the aims of the project. So it was to create a virtual version of recovery through activity that was accessible to all despite those COVID restrictions, which were significant at the time, but are still prevalent, to provide individuals with early access to occupational therapy input. And this was really important, that it was regardless of their condition or their stage within the recovery process. It was to develop an evidence-based occupational therapy group intervention, which could be facilitated centrally, and this could cover sort of a wide geographical area, so it wouldn't matter where you were in that health board, that you could still have access to this group. To raise awareness of the online resources, and this was to support individuals then to carry out meaningful activities and looking for sort of opportunities for individuals to connect with others. At the time of COVID, we were bombarded with online resources, but this was a way to sort of filter through those and direct people to, quality resources that they could integrate then into their occupations. It was to have a standardised protocol with nationally agreed outcome measures for delivery of recovery through activity across Wales, which Nicky has touched on earlier, and to improve the number of referrals to occupational therapy from other members of the multidisciplinary team. And this was a really important aim of the project, and this was to be supported by the development of a website and downloadable materials. So recovery through activity really wanted it to strengthen the joint working between statutory and third sector services, and really making the best use of those community resources that we have around us, and just allowing people then and ensuring that they can access the right support at the right time, which, as we know, is a key element of prudent healthcare. So how did we do? So our achievements to date. So we got the outcome measures agreed across Wales. We developed the protocols for delivering the virtual recovery through activity group, and they were agreed across Wales. We produced information leaflets and posters. They were developed to promote that recovery through activity to staff and service users in areas such as the waiting rooms, during team meetings, or any opportunity really that an OT had to promote that within their teams. We increased the referrals to occupational therapy within the teams in which they were working, which was a significant achievement. Service user and staff agreement was developed, and this was to ensure the confidentiality and their suitability really for the course. Recovery through activity is being successfully delivered, which we are very happy to say, across Aneurin and Bevan, Swansea Bay and Hywel Dda Health Board. We have set up the outcomes database. This is through Microsoft Forms and Microsoft Teams, really collating those outcomes and having sort of a central place then where they are kept and that they can be used. The website itself is still under development, but we are very lucky to be working alongside a service user with excellent IT skills. And there are plans to deliver between 1 to 4 virtual recovery through activity groups per year per health board. I'll now hand you over to Jessica.
I'm going to talk you a little bit through the All Wales Recovery for Activity timeline and our journey throughout the project. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about the outcomes and the challenges that we faced throughout this time. Following the generated idea back in March 2020, we set up a task and finish group to look at the start of the project and to really enable us to keep the momentum going and to allow us to offer that support to each other and allow us to offer that sounding board to set up systems and protocols and allow that task and finish group to kind of guide the project as we move forward. Throughout this journey, there has been some challenges. Following identification of the outcome and the experience measures, it was the obtaining of the funding throughout that, and actually different health boards had very different challenges in obtaining that funding as we move forward. It also allowed us, once we set up the virtual platform and we agreed that, we also had to allow access for all of our health boards to have access to the Microsoft Teams and the delivery unit throughout that as we move forward. There was also very much kind of, as we set up the look at the website and the task and finish group, there was a lot of lack of funding for developing this website. And actually following that, we had a lot of service user involvement, which has very much greatly helped with the website development and is a feather in our cap for that co-production as we move forward. We also, as we move forward, had a lot of kind of information governance, and that task and finish group allowed us to iron those out and to discuss and put those protocols and procedures in place. But following seeking advice, it allowed us learning opportunities to understand how that virtual technology comes into play with the information and governance around how to send out group emails, the confidentiality, and actually how to set up specific privacy notice and allowing service users and staff agreements that would all go across Wales as we all work together. Virtual recovery for activity, though, allows us to create a more sustainable model of intervention. And I think it really does allow us to be delivered more centrally. And I think when we come back to the website, I think that is one of the biggest parts within that, is that actually allows us to deliver that more from a central base and from an all Wales perspective. From a positive element, it really allows us to upskill our staff and to really utilise technology and to allow these skills to move forward within our everyday practice, and actually how to transfer these skills that we've learned throughout this practice into other areas that we move forward. It allowed us to very much develop resources that can be delivered across all Wales. And I think the virtual recovery for activity provides us opportunities to work and deliver interventions in collaboration with third sector agencies. And as you can see in the timeline, as we come more towards the March, the later 2021s, as Christine and as Nicky said, our virtual recovery activity have then started to come in fruition, and we've started to commence that. It's been a very long journey, but a very rewarding and challenging journey as we move forward. And I think we've overcome those challenges as we've gone throughout this timeline. Which leads me then very much on to the feedback. And I think for me, this is one of the nicest parts within the Recovery for Activity. It's been lovely to see the fruition and the journey of the Recovery for Activity, but actually to gain that personal service user and that staff feedback about what we've been implementing is a valued thing for us as a whole. And as you can see here, the feedback that we've come back has been very, very positive. Service users have gained confidence, and actually, like I said, they've seen the more the real me. And I think for us as a implementation of this group is very much around allowing people to connect more with their community and allow them to connect more back within the next steps of their recovery journey. And I think we've achieved that, as we can see from some of the feedback here, is that they've searched for things of their own accord, their own motivation, they've gained other ideas, and actually how they can carry this on after those groups and after those fruition. And I think for me, this feedback says a lot about the implementation of the Recovery for Activity programme that we kind of set up. I'm now going to hand that back over to Nicky to finish off.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about my experience of being a Bevan Exemplar. First of all, it's been a fantastic opportunity to network with other like-minded individuals across Wales. And it's been quite inspiring, actually, to hear about the diversity of projects that have been put forward as part of Bevan Exemplars. And being part of that and having sort of the opportunity to network and share ideas has been phenomenal, actually. Having a strict timeline really has helped us to keep the project on track. I think without that, we might have been sidelined a little bit, particularly with some enthusiastic OTs around the table. You know, having a Bevan Exemplar has definitely enabled us to access funding that previously we might have found difficult to access, in terms of things like the outcome measures and in terms of getting processes in place as well. I think because health boards are, you know, they recognise that Bevan Exemplars have got sort of a tight timeline to them. It certainly helped to move things along a little bit quicker than we'd normally experience. Having access to the training modules was really useful. And I found particularly useful the boxing up your innovation. It certainly helped me to identify exactly what we needed to sort of having our toolkit for delivering the course. And it really made me help. It really helps me to think differently then about how I put those sets of tools together. I was able to share some of that experience then with other members of the Task and Finish group as well, which is really great for discussion purposes. The only downside is it would have been really advantageous to be given more time for homework or developing responses, particularly in relation to the web page and perhaps this presentation. Because it was an always project, it was really difficult to get everybody involved in that feedback. So, you know, more time would have been really advantageous for that. It was really helpful to have meetings with experts in the field. They provided really useful information that we could incorporate into the planning and development of the project, and have given us really good ideas as to how to take our website development forward as well. So they've been invaluable really throughout the Bevan Exemplar experience. And, you know, all in all, I would really highly recommend the Bevan Exemplar programme for anybody wishing to take an idea forward, particularly if it's something they've put on the back burner because they don't think they're going to get sort of the support for it. I think the Bevan Exemplar process gives you kudos really within the health board, and it certainly helps to get people behind you, and you get to hear about sort of projects and information resources that perhaps you wouldn't have heard from before. So thank you everyone for listening.